Welcome back to Gold Derby. I'm Christopher Rosen. I'm joined by Joyce. Joyce, it's the moment we've been waiting for. Our final, in quotes, Emmy nomination predictions.
Very final, 1 week out. We're recording on July 5th. So we still have 7 days to change things.
This is like The Ring, if you're watching this. In 7 days, we'll have the nominees and we'll probably have made multiple changes. But for now, these are our final picks. Until Friday, we do our column and we'll make more tweaks and then probably right into Monday morning or Tuesday night.
I mean, you could do like Wednesday morning,
Wednesday morning,
because they haven't announced the specifics around the nomination announcement yet, but it's usually like 11:30 Eastern because they're humane at the TV Academy. So it's been like that since 2015.
Which I love, and the Oscars should absolutely do it. It's a joke that they haven't.
It's very rude to West Coasters.
Come on. What are we doing here? It's very rude to East Coasters. Nobody wants to be thinking about this stuff at 8:30 in the morning on the East Coast.
No, but like at least that's a normal time when people are up.
Yeah, true.
As opposed to 5:30.
It's amazing. And I still think they should do, this is a great tangent as we're starting our predictions, but I still think they should do like a primetime special kind of thing for the Oscars. They did that for the Grammys.
I've heard a lot of people say that over the years, and I just, I don't know, especially nowadays, like how much value there is for the networks themselves to do that. I mean, I guess they could like the TV Academy could just stream it on YouTube on their channel or something.
Right.
Like TV wise, because I've seen people be like, it should be on like NBC, like something like, no, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Like the only people who care about this is us.
True. But it could be like a thing for the Oscars. I'm like, oh, and this could be like an event, whatever. Anyway, we're going to do our predictions. We're going to start we're going to predict all the stuff we could predict in the prediction center. So if you're looking for like our directing predictions and stuff, tough beat. We'll talk about the actual nominees when the nominations happen. But we're just going to predict what we could predict. We're going to start with the last in the prediction center, first in our hearts. The competition program, reality stuff, the variety talk series, all these different things, even though it's not variety talk series anymore, right? What is it?
It's just talk.
Just
and then
talk.
It's scripted variety series.
Scripted variety and talk. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, first, for competition program, Joyce, here are my picks. My final predictions. Shockingly, the top 5 in the odds. RuPaul's Drag Race, The Amazing Race, Top Chef, The Voice, and The Traitors.
Same.
Nothing really to say here.
Yeah, I don't know. Should we just move on? I don't know.
We can. Reality host choice. Again, top 5 in the odds for me. RuPaul, Queer Eye hosts, Nicole Byer, Padma Lakshmi, and Alan Cumming for The Traitors, who I really love and hope gets in.
Yes. I hope Alan gets in too. I think it'll be cool if he won, but I think Rue will just win again.
Same. Mm-hmm. For talk series, no John Oliver here anymore because he's been moved.
He's been forced to move
to scripted variety. But here are the nominees for me, and shockingly, they're the top 5 in the odds. Stephen Colbert, Trevor Noah, Daily Show, Late Night with Seth Meyers, Jimmy Kimmel Live, and The Problem with Jon Stewart.
Same. I guess this is a change in the odds because the first time we talked about this, like 3 weeks ago, number 5 was Corden.
Yes.
But we both had Jon Stewart. So maybe it's our influence.
Maybe. I have Stewart at 12-1.
And I have him at 14-1.
So yeah. We were seemingly they like Jon Stewart. And Corden,
understatement, not
as much maybe.
They dropped him for Late Late Show,
right?
4 years, or it's been 4 years since it's been nominated. Whereas The Problem with Jon Stewart was nominated last year in nonfiction, but now it's here. So
I'm excited to think about this one once the nominations are out because I do think it is even though everyone is kind of piling onto the Colbert train, I do think this could be a pretty competitive category in the end.
I feel like Colbert is just kind of a default number 1.
Yes.
People just assume he's been runner-up to John Oliver this whole time.
Yes. But I do think I don't think he's like a rubber stamp lock to win. No. I think this could be like any one of these potential nominees.
My pick is Seth Meyers. So.
Obviously, Seth. I think all of these could be good. But anyway, we'll talk more about that once the nominations are out, I guess. Next category, the scripted variety. There's 3 nominees here, and I have the top 3. Last Week Tonight with John Oliver, Saturday Night Live, and a Black Lady sketch show.
Yes. And I think John Oliver will win and beat SNL.
I agree. I think if it was a more buzzy SNL year, you could make a case for it being a little closer, but I'm not sure that it was. And I think that also...
Yeah, it needed a season, like season 42, which was like 2016 to 17. You know?
I think, when we do the next election cycle, I think SNL would make a case for this, right?
I guess that depending on, there's a lot of material, I guess, even now for it to mine next year.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
And then animated program, Joyce, the last of these categories that we love, but we're not going to spend a ton of time on. I have the top 5 in the odds. Shocking. The Simpsons, Bob's Burgers, Big Mouth, Intergalactic, and Harley Quinn, which I got for 100 to 1 odds, which I'm loving.
I have Simpsons, Bob's, Primal, Intergalactic, and Rick and Morty.
Nice. I guess we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Last year Arcane won, so not here this year.
Yes.
So.
All right. So if you made it that far, now we're going to do comedy series, then we're going to do drama after comedy, and then limited series to wrap it up. So that'll be the timing and the format. So we'll start with comedy, Joyce. We talked a lot about this because we've talked a lot about everything here many times. But I have the same 8 that I've had for most of the season. Ted Lasso, The Bear, Abbott Elementary, Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, Barry, Only Murders, Wednesday, and Shrinking.
So I haven't made any changes yet. I'm going to do these live if I make changes. So I still have Ted, The Bear, Abbott, Barry, Murders, Maisel, What We Do in the Shadows, and Poker Face. I am debating dropping Shadows for Shrinking, but that might also depend on if I put in Harrison Ford later.
Funny enough, I took out Harrison Ford, but I guess we'll talk about this later when we get there.
I think I'm going to keep Poker Face.
Okay.
So it's really like those last 2 slots, because I think the top 6 is the consensus 6. So it'll be pretty shocking if one of those miss.
Yes.
But yeah, I think Poker Face has probably done enough, and it seems to be embraced by the industry enough. So I think it could be Peacock's breakthrough. But I also understand people's hesitancy to predict it, because we've been burned before with Girls 5 Eva. But I think we can all agree that Poker Face was bigger than Girls 5 Eva.
So if I'm going to make another final pick eventually, I was toying with Wednesday for Poker Face. I went with Wednesday because it's the more popular show and was a huge hit for Netflix, their biggest show ever. And so yeah. I think the mass number of people who have seen it and probably liked it enough would help it get in, potentially over Poker Face. And then I have Shrinking in there because I think passion for Shrinking maybe would be good, though I would argue with myself that Poker Face also ran a pretty solid campaign, and like you said, stayed in the conversation for a while. And I think that it could overcome the lesser reach of Peacock compared to Netflix and get in that last spot. But I'd rather go with the big popular Wednesday for now. So that's why I'm sticking with Wednesday. But I think Poker Face get in. And also, as we'll talk about, it seems like it has a pretty surefire acting nomination, maybe as well. So that would probably help it. But anyway, I'm sticking with Wednesday and Shrinking.
I think if this were still the unlimited ballot, I would have Wednesday in. But I feel like it's just kind of a lower tier filler nominee in a lot of ways. I think, even though it's widely seen, I don't know if there is that urgency to vote for it or nominate it in certain situations. It had kind of a spotty winter run too. So it's it'll be snubbed somewhere and then it'll get a nomination somewhere to, it got into BAFTA, which is big for it. But yeah, I don't know if it has the same kind. I feel like the people who love Poker Face really love it, and I don't know if that's the same type of voter that is that would be as passionate for Wednesday, or if like those the people who are passionate for Wednesday would be in the Academy.
Right. Very, very possible.
Yeah. And then like with Shadows, I think it could get into writing again as it's done before, and the writers are obviously here for it. It missed WGA this year, so that's bad for it. So like I probably should drop it and put in Shrinking, but then I do have to put in Harrison Ford, I think. It really sucks. There's some categories where I'm like, I need more spots, and then other categories I'm like, we can cut a couple spots here.
The reason I don't think actually Ford needs to get in, and we'll talk about this when we get there, is because I think if it was 8, he would get in, and I think because it's 7, he won't, because I don't think he's like a #1 vote getter. I don't think people are going to be super passionate about him in the show. I think they like him in the show, and I think that's why he will miss ultimately, because of one less spot. But I think you could argue the Shrinking, without getting an acting nomination, in theory, could have like the runner-up just missed acting nominee in all of the at least in actor, supporting actress, and supporting actor. So I think that's why it's still safe to get in, even if it doesn't get any acting nominations.
It could get into writing. I don't know if it will, because that's crowded too.
And casting, I think it can get in because it's a great cast.
Yeah, it's just both series categories are very open in the last 1 or 2 slots.
Yeah, so. We'll see what ends up with. All right, next up, comedy actress Joyce. This is bad news for the Selena Gomez fans. I'm just gonna say right now, just to warn you, because you're
gonna betray them.
I am
at this last second.
Yes. I have Rachel Brosnahan, Quinta Brunson, Jenna Ortega, Christina Applegate, and Natasha Lyonne.
I am going to do Quinta, Rachel, Christina, Natasha, and I think I'm going to do Elle and not Jenna.
Wow. My tight one was, so I dropped obviously Selena for Natasha, but I think if I was going to make another change, and this would kind of tie with Wednesday in series, I actually wanted to really predict Bridget Everett and drop Jenna, because I think there's going to be more passion. I'm not going to do it yet. These are final picks, but they're not final. But I do think she'll have more passion than Jenna and also Elle, but I'm just not sure if that is enough to translate to an actual nomination in the end.
Yeah, I've thought about Bridget a lot, and I feel like it might be too tiny in some ways. Like, I feel like, a good comp is probably like Pamela Adlon for Better Things, but I think that was even slightly bigger. But it'll be cool if she got in. And I'm gonna go with Elle, I think, because I feel like even though Wednesday is the bigger show than The Great, and The Great was late this year, she was nominated last year, so I think she might have more individual support than Jenna, who is untested. And yeah, I think like the really good argument for Jenna is like she does carry the show. Like, I don't think the show would be as successful as it is without her. But it's also easy for me to not have her since I don't have Wednesday.
Exactly. So I think if you have Wednesday like I do, you kind of have to have Jenna, like we were saying.
I know. I mean, previously I had Jenna without Wednesday. So, but yeah, it sucks that there's only 5 here, because I would have her if there were 6. Would you have Selena if there were 6?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah,
I think I'd have either Elle or Bridget if there were 6.
Yeah. I think, she's great on the show, but I don't really see it for her, unfortunately.
I think season 3 will be a big win for her because A, there's not as much competition in theory next year for the Emmys, and B, hopefully it's like a great season. And
did you watch the screeners?
No. Did you?
I watched them, yes.
Do you think she'll be in there next year?
I don't know. We can't really talk about it yet.
All
but
right.
There's
offline.
I'll just say it's my new favorite show to read because Succession and Barry are gone.
Okay.
So
yeah.
Yeah, I don't I think like just looking at in the odds, what is she in seventh? What,
Yeah,
sixth?
she's fallen a bit since they dropped to the from 6 to 5.
Yeah. I mean, I just like I've said this before, but I think, it kind of hurts her that she's not the sole focus of her show too.
Mhm.
And you look at the people around her, like they're the sole leads or a co-lead with one other person. And even like the people behind her too, like Cecily Strong, Linda Cardellini, Elaine York. So
Yeah.
that would be cool too if Helene got in, but I don't think so.
Comedy actor choice. This one, I think we don't have to spend a lot of time on. I have the top 5 that seemingly everybody has: Jeremy Allen White, Jason Sudeikis, Bill Hader, Martin Short, and Steve Martin.
Yeah. What if there was a snub? Who would it be? And who would make it?
Steve Martin, and I think Donald Glover probably, based on past history.
Yeah, I think Jason's ahead of him in the odds.
He is. I'm just not convinced Jason would get in only because of it's untested, and we know that they have liked Alana and Donald in the past. So I feel like he would just get in.
Yeah, Donald got in last year. Yeah, Jason also kind of feels like one of those leads who doesn't need to get in, or not need to, but like doesn't get in on the first shot.
Sure. I also think like it's similar to one of the reasons why I'm not convinced like Quinta Brunson is going to win is they're similar character. Like Jason does some wacky stuff and he's like fun, but it's like he is like the relative straight man around these like really broad, big supporting performances that are more fun. And similarly, Quinta. And so I'm just like, I think Quinta will get in, obviously, but I'm like, for Jason, I'm just like, there's more fun out there. Like, I don't know. Sometimes it's tough for like the straight man to get in.
Well, when there were 6, I had Nicholas Hoult.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel bad having Elle and not him, but I'm not gonna go against the consensus 5.
If you had a snub one, who would you snub?
I think I would do Steve Martin too. And I think I would predict Donald as well, but I would vote for Nick.
Yeah, makes sense.
So how much do you think like ballot placement helps people?
I think it does.
Like Nick will be close to Bill.
I think it does.
So if you vote for Bill and you just see Nick right there and you have one spot left and you're like, I'm not voting for either of the Martins.
That would be tough to imagine, right? But I mean, like I could see you. I guess I've never done it before, but a lot of times when you're doing like at least if I was online and filling something out, or even when we're doing the odds here, if like in the early stages, like we just did the Oscars, right, Joyce? That prediction center is launched, and before everything was like 100 to 1 or it's alphabetical, and you kind of like I'll just like punch through, and then I look and I have like 13, let's say, for best picture instead of 10 because I just did it alphabetically, and then I have to be like, oh, I have to like edit this. So when you're voting for the Emmys, is it similar like that where you're hitting radio buttons, or once you click, does it lock it in?
No, you could go back. I've seen I've observed people voting before on their ballot.
Okay.
So I've actually helped someone vote on an unlimited ballot a couple of years ago.
Right. Okay. So like so in my mind, I could see someone being like Hader.
You could always go back.
And then like kind of then have to make a choice, which I think that'll help someone like maybe you're saying like Nick Hoult is like, if you like Nick Hoult enough.
Well, I don't know how it works on the restricted ballot. Like if you fill out the 5 already and you try to add a 6, I don't know if it like warns you. It's like you're already maxed out. Because on unlimited, you don't have that problem. Right. You just keep adding things.
So maybe even if it tells you then you maxed out, when you get to Steve Martin, then you have to decide, oh, I guess I should go back. Or I guess for Martin Short, I guess I should go back and like take someone out.
Well, the other thing is half the voters get the ballots in reverse alphabetical and the others get it alphabetically. Like,
wow, I didn't even know that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of fair, but it sucks for the people in the middle, like the M's,
right?
Like Steve Martin.
So these are all things to think about, but I'm still sticking with the top 5.
Yeah, I think like there are too many categories that are unpredictable this year in terms of nominations that I'm not going to go against the grain in this one.
No. Supporting actress in a comedy, Joyce. Here we go. This was a tight one. I wish there were 8.
We lost the spot.
We lost the spot. There's only 7, which makes it much harder. But I'm sticking with the 7 that I've had since a couple of weeks ago. So really sticking to my guns. but I have Cheryl Lee Ralph, Iowa Debris, Janelle James, Hannah Waddingham, Alex Borstein, Lisa Ann Walter, and Juno Temple.
I have Sarah Goldberg instead of Juno.
So Sarah's ahead of Lisa in the odds. So the straight odds, if you were just going chalk with what we've got, is Sarah and Juno and no Lisa Ann Walter. But we're both on the Lisa Ann Walter train pretty hard. Because I think if you love Abbott, you definitely like Lisa Ann Walter.
It also feels like this is the right time for Abbott to expand
Yes.
in acting nominations, because you typically get that with a second year show anyway, and it already overperformed last year acting wise. So it feels right for it, and I would predict her before Chris Perfetti at this point. But also, if I were to put in Juno, I would drop her to put in Juno.
Wow. So I dropped Sarah because I was just like, she fell off already, and I know it's an unlimited ballot, was on a limited ballot, now a restricted ballot, maybe you're going to go back to it, but I'm just not sure. I don't know if I don't know what their take is on Barry anymore.
It's definitely not as well. Okay, Barry has never been huge, right? It's never been mainstream like Succession became,
right?
Or like Ted, which is a lot more broad than Barry. Like Barry has always been niche, so I think it still has that pocket of supporters. But yeah, even though this was the last season, I agree. I don't think like the buzz was as high during the run. I don't know if that's also because it was like airing in the wake of Succession too, right behind it. But I think like I said, like if you love it, then you really love it, and I think you will support it. And if you were just aghast that Sarah was snubbed last year, like that might be even more impetus for you to vote for her this year.
Yeah.
And like she got in for season 2 4 years ago, but that's also a different field. So the restricted ballot should help people like her, where it's like a smaller show, not as broadly popular, but it has a lot of passionate supporters.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll just keep her because I have to go down with the ship.
Of course, I totally understand. And like if Juno Temple did not get nominated, like we've talked about a lot this season, for the season of Ted, I would not be shocked because she didn't have it. The character did not have as much to do.
Yeah, I go back and forth with Juno and Lisa a lot because there's not really any reason to think that the Academy is off of Ted. Like, no. Some viewers and critics and like Twitter is, and like we know the acting branch especially stay on things too long sometimes. Like they don't get off right away when things are past by their sell-by date, or are not that strong like that particular season. And I also don't think like she's not bad in the season, it's just her material wasn't great, and she still did her best with it. So I don't think like they would conflate that, but I don't know, like maybe they were also turned off by the season. I have no idea, but I can see her still sticking around just because the show is so strong, and it's not like a horrific season.
No, and I
so
think
like it still has its fans, and I think the voters will like it more than like everyone else does still. So I can see her hanging on. It's hard to drop one of like the go-to Ted acting nominees, like with Jason, Hannah, her, and Brett Goldstein.
Yeah, I also think
like all of them have also made SAG.
I also think with regard to like the third season is, and this is something we kind of maybe anticipated when we were talking about it during the season, is that like since it was so much a season of moments that like divorced from the show or the narrative were good, but maybe as a whole didn't connect or didn't come together in the way you wanted, that now when you're left thinking about the show, I'm like, oh, I really liked a lot of it because I'm not like.
But like how many of those specific moments involve her? Because a lot of the stuff it's like people don't like Shandy.
I to me, for her specifically, it's all the stuff in like the last 2 episodes with her and Roy and Jamie, like that whole plot I thought was really fun in when they're like chasing him, basically.
I thought the stalking one was fun, but then
Yeah.
them like randomly making it a love triangle at the finale was just weird.
It was weird, but I like the stalking one, and that's what I'm thinking of. And so that was good.
And then
I don't know.
like I think I'll probably keep Lisa. I don't know.
I would honestly be surprised if she didn't get in. I just think people love Abbott, especially actors. And like, man, she's so funny on it. She's really campaigned well. I just think like there's a lot of reasons why. And like you said, like a lot of times these shows will expand acting nominees, and it's an easy one to think of her adding, even on a restricted ballot.
What about Jessica Williams?
I think if it was second season, maybe, but I think this year it's a little tough, though she's amazing. And I think she's definitely the best part of the whole show. So it's a great
She also feels
character.
like someone who will just miss the first season.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's Cecily Strong, who is pretty high. She's a former nominee, but I don't think she'll get a farewell nom.
No.
Just Molly Shannon. I don't think so. Zazie Beetz. Michelle Yeoh, very high here for some reason. I mean, I know the reason, but like
stands are out.
Real ones know she should not be this high. No offense to
her. Supporting actor, Joyce. This was a tough one because I really wanted that 8.
Very, very hard.
I wanted the 8, but I got 7. So this is what I ended up doing. Brett Goldstein, Eben Moss-Bachrach, Tyler James Williams, Phil Dunster, Henry Winkler, Anthony Carrigan, and Tony Shalhoub. My condolences to Harrison Ford.
Well, now the time has come for me to drop Stephen Root.
Okay.
But then who do I put in? Do I put in Harrison Ford or Phil Dunster?
So that was my choice, basically, as well. And I went with Phil because I felt they still love Ted. It's the biggest show. He was undoubtedly the best part of the season. And I think if you are a fan of the show, you would have him really high, even higher maybe than Brett, even though Brett is a 2-time winner. And so he also campaigned like crazy. And Harrison is Harrison Ford and would be an easy name check. But I get this. Not sure the Emmy voters care about like famous movie stars.
They don't.
Being on TV. And so I think the royal we overpredict when it's like a famous person.
Olivia Colman and Great Expectations.
Slumming on TV. I'm doing that in air quotes. So that to me is why like Harrison wouldn't get in this year. I think again, if they come back for season 2, I think Shrinking will certainly like elevate in season 2, it feels like, just based on like how the response has stuck around and it's really generated like a lot of seemingly like people seem to like it, but I'm just not for this year. I just think like Phil would be the choice.
Yeah, I can't. Is Harrison in like 5th or something?
I think he was
pretty high.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He is in 5th, ahead of Tony Shalhoub and Eben.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the other thing I was thinking about, I was like, I could also just pull a Chris and drop Tony Shalhoub and get them both in.
So I think it's possible. The reason I didn't want to do it again, I have him in last, Tony Shalhoub. I'm in 7th. So if he does get dropped off, I'll feel vindicated, Siri play vindicated. But I think if they still like the show enough, like I just think they're not thinking about this show that much, and they're just like, we're going to put them in, which maybe means there's not a lot of passion there, but I think he will have his supporters, and certainly there are like a few standout moments for Abe in the season towards the end, especially. So I think that will probably put him over the top.
Yeah, I think like throughout the spring, my thing with Harrison is like exactly like you said. I felt like he was inflated in the odds because people were just like, I'll predict a famous movie star, even though he's really great on the show. But it's like, I wouldn't say he's like a lock because, you know, Shrinking is still untested and it wasn't like a huge smash like Ted was in his first season. You know, I wouldn't even put it on the same level as like Abbott last year when it was just it became like a word of mouth thing, and then you could feel confident about voting or predicting it in series and Quinta, and then it still overperformed with Tyler James Williams. I think most people were predicting Janelle too, and they also got in Cheryl Lee Ralph. And I mean, they did campaign a lot, and the focus of their campaign is Harrison, even though he's not actually doing the campaigning, which you wouldn't expect anyway. I think like the safer choice is Phil, because he's on the bigger show that we know they love. He just hasn't been nominated. So it's like the thing of, are they paying attention to the season? And then, because I could also see them just nominating Nick Mohammed again. Like if they just don't care about the Nate arc that much.
Mm-hmm.
And they just like him, I can see him just being lazy and going back to him again too.
For sure. I don't disagree at all.
So I don't know.
The other thing I felt with Harry, the reason I mean, this is maybe the wrong way to think about it, but the reason I have Phil, and I guess you could say I maybe shouldn't have Tony then, but is I just think there's, of all these people we're talking about, like Phil would have in theory the most passion. This is completely anecdotal, right? But like a lot of people were very excited about Phil on the season, even more so than like Nick. And I'm not sure there's that kind of passion, certainly for Harrison Ford, other than just being Harrison Ford. Like you said, he's really funny on the show. It's a good show. He's really good on it. But like, I don't think people are like doing, cartwheels to be like, oh man, he's so great.
It's also kind of like, I think people are slightly surprised that he's like good at comedy.
Right.
But his comedy is also kind of just like sitting there and being curmudgeon.
Yes.
And also singing Sugar Ray, which is great.
Great.
So
what are you going to do here, Joyce?
I don't know. What if I don't do either of them and I do James Marsden?
So he would be like a great passion pick. And we didn't mention Jury Duty at all yet, but I feel like, is there a world where he gets in and Jury Duty gets in for series?
I mean, I would love it.
Could happen. I would not be surprised.
I do think like that is one of the few like word of mouth surprise hits, and it's small, but I mean it was just kind of dumped on Amazon Freevee in April. Not dumped because it was rolling out throughout the whole month, but TikTok was the one that discovered it really.
Mm-hmm.
And then they really started revving up the campaign for it. Like James Marsden did a lot of stuff, and they've been bringing Ronald out everywhere.
I really think it's not impossible to imagine it getting in for series and for James.
Yeah, I don't know if I can go there with it.
We're talking about how like Peacock is untested after like multiple years, and I'm sure Freevee has been around for a long time, but like never had a show that people seemingly talked about at all.
Yeah, and this is a show that also like my normie friends have watched.
Yes.
Too, so it's like permeated that.
I anecdotal again, more people have heard of Jury Duty and watched it than Shrinking, I would imagine.
Yes, I mean, I personally don't know anyone like a normie who has Apple, so they have not watched Shrinking. I don't think I would do James. I think again, like if I do Harrison, I would have to consider putting Shrinking in series too.
Like I said, I have it in because I think it has enough like near nominees in acting categories that should have had one more nominee, and then also like enough to get in maybe for directing or writing and casting. So I think it'll have enough to get in for series, but I understand your logic.
I'll do Phil.
Nice.
Now, so we'll see. We'll see if I still have Phil in a week.
Guest actress in a comedy. These are my picks. Taraji P. Henson for Abbott, Quinta Brunson for SNL, Iowa Debris for Abbott, Becky M. Baker for Ted Lasso, Judith Light for Poker Face, and Harriet Walter also for Ted Lasso.
I have Taraji, Harriet, Io, Becky, Shirley MacLaine, who I'm like considering dropping.
I did.
And Quinta.
Okay. So you don't have Judith?
No, but I would put in Cherry Jones for Poker Face, I think.
Either one, but I dropped Shirley MacLaine on the thinking of same as I said previously with Harrison Ford. Just because she's a massive movie star who's like an icon and a legend doesn't necessarily mean that she'll just get rubber stamped in. And I feel like that's how this is being predicted.
I was thinking about this when I was watching the season 3 screeners. Because I was like, her stint on the show last year has also kind of been forgotten. Like it was never a huge thing. It wasn't even like a James Caverly, Nathan Lane thing or Jane Lynch, you know. So, and it aired a year ago now. So maybe I'll drop her.
I put Judith in over Cherry Jones just because I think that episode is better, but they obviously are pushing the Cherry Jones episode more. So take that grain of salt there, I guess, for me. But my preference was Judith because I thought that episode was really good.
Yeah.
But Cherry's episode is the one that Natasha directed, and they're obviously very forwardly pushing that.
She's also like the only option for that episode, Cherry, unlike Judith.
Right.
So I'll do Cherry, I guess.
Maybe I'll put Cherry in when I make my final picks and drop Judith.
I mean, there's also Hong Chow from Poker. Like, there's a lot of Poker Faces.
Yeah. I think with me, I'm just going with which episodes I thought mattered were good. I don't think the Hong Chow ones is a very good episode.
So now I'm gonna have double Cherry Jones and Harriet Walter in comedy guest and drama guest.
But that feels right because they're pretty lazy.
They're, you know, for as much as we talk about the restricted ballot, it doesn't matter what kind of ballot they have in guest. Like they're always lazy in guest.
Anyone else here you thought of putting in?
Do you think Sarah Niles can get back in?
I thought that, but I don't think so. I mean, if they love it, this would be a great. I guess this would be like a way to say, like, man, they still love Ted, because if she got in for what she did in the season, which is next to nothing, that would be a pretty great sign that they love this show, and they are not off of it.
They really are not paying attention to guests.
Right. So she could easily get in, and I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. There's Jane Lynch for Murders, Catherine Zeta-Jones for Wednesday.
I think if Wednesday gets in for series and they like really love it, it's possible that she can get in.
Any other SNL person? There's
No.
Molly Shannon's pretty high. No.
Molly Shannon was great. That would be the one to pick, I think, but no.
Yeah.
All right, guest actor, Joyce. I had to make a change here. I dropped my boy Bobby Cannavale for podcast.
How dare you?
Very upset, but the Academy was not on my wavelength, I feel like, so he had to go.
That was your sacrifice.
That's good. That's really good.
People who have seen the 7 people who have seen Bupkis will get that.
It's a really good reference. So here's what I ended up with: Nathan Lane, the Martins, Luke Kirby, Pedro Pascal, and then I went John Bernthal and Oliver Platt for The Bear.
You doubled up.
I think this is where we will see the love for season 2 of The Bear, where it hasn't really had other places to.
You mean in the 4 days between season 2 dropping and voting ending?
Yes, I do think this will help it. He is. I mean, like, I would say Oliver Platt would be like. I mean, obviously season 2 is going to be tough, but I think him and Evan are like the 2 front runners for next year's Emmys. Like, Oliver Platt is so good on this season, and I think it will translate into a guest nominee for this first season, even though he's not in it as much and doesn't have as much to do.
It's funny because I don't even think like season 2 had that much impact on him getting in here, even though we could apply that logic within like those 4 days if people binged it and then voted. I feel like because I had him in previously, and my logic was that they sometimes tend to just check off veterans here, and he is a veteran. And it's also an indication of when they really love a show. It's like when Jane Addams got in for Hacks for season 1.
Yes.
You know? So I that's why I put him in over John Bernthal. So I have Nathan, the Martins, Luke, Leslie Odom Jr., who I'm not sure about, but I have him in here. Oliver and Sam Richardson for Ted Lasso. But I don't know, like, am I on a poker face kick today? Because I'm considering putting in Adrian Brody just because he's in the premiere.
Great performance. Love it. You also don't have Pedro Pascal for SNL.
I don't. I never had him though.
So I'm gonna go down with that ship. But I think it would be an easy one to drop. And we've seen last year when it was like Jason Sudeikis was maybe going to get in here, and he was widely predicted for hosting SNL, and it didn't even happen. So would not be surprising if like they just dropped off the SNL host here, or
Yeah,
another
I mean,
SNL
my
host.
my other SNL person before was Dave Chappelle, and I dropped him.
I
And
would.
I
I'm
also
not
had
convinced.
area before, so
I'm not convinced Leslie is a strong bet for a nomination, but he's fifth in the odds. So
no, I think I just have him in there because it's guest, and we know actors like the show. I think I would drop Sam for Adrian. But I don't know if I'll do it. And
Sam's
then
great, but
yeah, like who else is there here? There's Bernthal, who you have. Hank Azaria, who I did have too. Nick Nolte, another poker face. Would it be weird to have Cherry and not Nick? I don't think so.
no, I don't think so either.
Luis Guzman, Lil Rel, James Caverly, the makeup
Brad Pitt.
Austin Butler, the other SNL people here. I don't know.
This does feel like a category where any of these people get in. I wouldn't be surprised if it was like, if you told me like Austin Butler got in, would you be shocked? He's 100-1 odds, but I'm like, I wouldn't be so shocked.
I would, because there are other SNL people I expect to get in before him, like Chappelle and Pedro.
Right.
I don't. Should I put Adrian? I don't know.
He's great. I mean, he's so good.
Yeah.
You know, I love Adrian.
I'm just. How many do I have for Poker Face right now? I have Series, Natasha, Cherry. It could get into writing and directing.
I think you're going a little hard on Poker Face. That would be my.
I don't know.
My estimation, but go with God.
I'm only considering him because like it is the premiere, and he's all over.
And that's one of the episodes they're very high on. So
yeah, I'll keep Sam for now.
Okay.
I could see him still sticking around.
All right, that was comedy, Joyce. So now we go to drama. Similarly, like we said, pretty set 6 shows, and then maybe 7 even, and then 1 freebie spot. So this is what I got: Succession, The White Lotus, The Last of Us, Better Call Saul, Yellow Jackets, The Crown, Andor, and then I'm sticking with Bad Sisters in that last spot.
Yeah, I have the same. I have Succession, White Lotus, Better Call Saul, Last of Us, Andor, The Crown, Yellow Jackets, and Bad Sisters. Mostly because I don't know what else to put in there. And just like with Wednesday in comedy, if this were an unlimited ballot, I would have House of the Dragon.
So House of the Dragon is the popular pick. You've kind of convinced me that maybe it won't happen, but also if it's like Wednesday, then maybe I should have it in. But I think Andor is like the big show that gets in. I feel like that's like the popular hit show, and it's definitely been the one Star Wars show that people have really rallied around throughout. So I'm sticking with Andor. And Bad Sisters, I just think will have enough enthusiasm to get in. And like we said, it's like it's the odd show out, or one of the shows that's not like the other.
Yeah, I think like even though The Crown and Yellow Jackets were weaker this season, I think they're still in, just because there's no consensus over the other shows after it, really. And yeah, like Bad Sisters is not super strong. Like it did well at BAFTA and like the Irish Emmys, the IFTAs, which obviously you would expect. But it's not really like I don't sense there's a lot of passion for it. But I do think there are people who like it enough.
Mm-hmm.
And it's different enough, like, you know, it's female fronted as opposed to a lot of these genre shows too. So I think it could sneak in there, but yeah, I don't know.
With Yellow Jackets and The Crown, the other thing is, I think it's similar to what we're saying about Ted Lasso. It's just like, I think while maybe the conversation was split, I'm not sure the Emmy voters are going to think that critically of these shows for second seasons, or in The Crown's case for fifth, sixth.
No, I think I think like with The Crown, it's more that it underwhelmed,
Hmm.
but I don't think anyone would say is terrible,
No,
you
and I'm
know?
excited for the new season.
And like Yellow Jackets was more up and down, I think.
Hmm.
But I think there's just also like enough. I think there might be enough people who were also like catching up on season one and then like going into season two.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I think it's not like it's super packed here that it could get squeezed out. So I think it'll make it in here. And then there's just, like what else is there? There's House of Dragon, Yellowstone. You can do Yellowstone. Mandalorian, The Old Man, Slow Horses, Handmaids, which I guess you could say could get back in, but I don't really see it.
No,
The Boys too, which got in 2 years ago, the COVID year. The Diplomat, Lord of the Rings, 1923, Perry Mason. Now we're getting into The Good Doctor. So
not great.
yeah, so I kind of just have Bad Sisters here by default, really. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if House of Dragon made it in. Just it's if there's not enough passion for Bad Sisters to get over the line, and then the visibility of House of Dragon wins out.
Right.
But yeah, that eighth spot is tough.
Moving on to drama actress choice. This one similarly competitive, and I think there's a lot of permutations here, but these are the 6 I ended up with: Sarah Snook, Bella Ramsey, Melanie Linsky, Imelda Staunton, Kerry Russell, and Sharon Horgan.
I have that right now, but I'm considering a change.
What's your change?
I'm considering putting in another Yellow Jacket.
Wow.
I think I would do Juliette Lewis, even though I would vote for Sophie Nélisse if I had to choose between them.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's like, I think that I would keep Sharon and drop Kerry.
This
And
is not far off from what I was thinking, but go ahead. Not for Juliette Lewis, but yes.
It's more that I think, I don't know if I can predict multiple people from hold on, let me see, I have to pull it up. Bad Sisters, The Diplomat, 1923, House the Dragon, like these fringe shows, The Good Fight, Christine Baranski, like those fringe people who you could pick 2 of that group to fill out 5 and 6. And I don't know, like none of their shows, as are super strong. Some of them are untested, so we're just kind of banking on their individual strength, and I don't know if any of them individually are that strong either. Like they have fans, I guess, but so I guess it might be safer to just go with another Yellow Jacket and pick one of that group, and I would pick Sharon.
Right. I was thinking of dropping Kerry, keeping Sharon because I have Bad Sisters in series, and like I feel like that like is a leg up. And dropping Kerry, even though The Diplomat was like a huge hit on Netflix and like people watch it, and she's obviously like the Academy does enjoy Kerry Russell. I was thinking going back to Elizabeth Moss.
I mean, I would not say that's weird.
But I didn't want to put Handmaids in series. I
don't think you would need Handmaids in series in that case either.
I think they could go back to her, and also like again, like you're saying, just like a name check kind of at this point, right? Like, I mean, we know Elizabeth Moss. We like Elizabeth Moss. We liked her on the show. And like, why wouldn't we just vote for her again? She's 5th in the odds, so it's not like this is like a real groundbreaking twist that I'm thinking of predicting her. But it's not someone I think we've taken necessarily super seriously this season. But I could see going back to her.
Yeah, I think we probably would be talking about her more if Handmaids were not shut out at the Winter Awards. Like it just flopped completely. And she has missed before, so I guess that's the argument against her, but she made it back last season. And I would say this is kind of open too for her to get back in, and just there is a pretty set top 4. And then it's those two spots. And I don't know if any combo of these, borderline contenders are strong enough to get to it. I mean, maybe it'll happen if, Yellow Jackets is not strong to
Right.
carry the second person, or they really don't care about Handmaids anymore. But I mean, I don't know who else there is here to do.
I'm not convinced about like Helen Mirren personally.
No, again, it kind of feels like the Oscar thing again. It's just like fame. I mean, she is an Emmy winner. She's done TV before, but it's like that same kind of mentality. And it's also another spinoff of Yellowstone, and they already did not care about Yellowstone last year when I had a lot more going for it. Going into the Emmys, it was shut out. So yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't put her in.
No.
Myself personally. So I don't know, like, should I do Juliet instead of Carrie?
I mean, I can make the argument for Juliet, but I'm not. Yes, probably. I think dropping Carrie makes sense. If you want to do Juliet, that's fine. But I'm not sure you're going to stick with that.
I mean, what else is there to do besides Elizabeth, which you're considering? There's Emma, who's pretty high.
Emma's fourth in the odds, I think, or fifth in the odds.
Yeah. Yeah. But they come in so late in the show, and I don't know. I feel like there's just a lot of apathy towards House of the Dragon, and it was another bomb in the winter. So
I don't know. I don't know.
There's Kelly Riley, Yellowstone. These are the people in the odds that are all at 100-1. Hilary Swank, Alaska Daily, which is being pulled from Hulu. We'll never see it again. Christine Baranski, I don't know. That would be cool. Like, what if she's always just been missing, and then like she can finally get in?
Maybe.
Now we're into Angela Bassett, 911.
Honorary Oscar winner Angela Bassett.
I don't know. Like, how much of a possibility do you think there are voters who are voting with both seasons of Yellow Jackets in mind?
Not in a small amount.
And it's like open enough in those two spots.
They would just add her in. Yeah, I understand it. I do understand it. So I don't know.
I also don't I feel like the buzz for The Diplomat has also kind of died down. So
all right, I'm going to change my. I know we said this is final, but I'm changing mine to Elizabeth now. I'm dropping Carrie. I'm putting Elizabeth.
I'm going to do Juliet then.
Okay. Next up, then let's go to the next category. Drama actor, our favorite. I have Kieran Culkin, Jeremy Strong, Pedro Pascal, Bob Odenkirk, Brian Cox, and Diego Luna.
I have to top 5, and now the time has come for me to finally drop Matthew Rhys.
All right.
So I mean, I guess it's fitting because I just dropped Carrie, so now to drop Matthew. I think I'm just going to go with the consensus 6th place with Jeff Bridges.
Fine. Good performance.
So
he's been out there talking about it.
There's like, because there's Patty, Diego, Harrison Ford in 1923. I don't buy that because I feel like if like the performance people are talking about in 1923 is Helen Mirren.
I went with Diego because I have Andor in series, and I think it's a pretty safe bet for series. And like similar like to Wednesday, I'm like, oh well, if you like the show, you probably like Diego Luna.
I feel like he's kind of like 4th highest maybe in chances of getting nominated for acting. I feel like it's better chances in guest and even Stellan in supporting
maybe
than for him. But yeah, is Brian 5th in the odds?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Jeff is 6th. It's fine.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people are just anti-dicting Brian because they don't want him in this category. But then there's no one who has a stronger show than he does or is stronger individually who can usurp him, really.
Right. But I don't know who would even do it.
Exactly. Because it's like you would not say The Old Man is stronger than Succession.
No.
or House of the Dragon, or Andor, or 1923, or Perry Mason, or Yellowstone, Golden Globe winner Kevin Costner, Anthony Starr, The Boys.
Yeah, no.
So
All right. Should we do next? I mean, what else to say here? I have Kieran winning still. Jeremy Strong's first in the odds. We'll talk about the winners, obviously, after the nominees.
I think the odds will change once the nominations are
out. Supporting actress. Here's what I got. Jennifer Coolidge for The White Lotus, Ray Seahorn for Better Call Saul, Christina Ricci for Yellow Jackets, Megan Fahey for White Lotus, Elizabeth Debicki for The Crown, Aubrey Plaza for White Lotus, J. Smith Cameron for Succession, and Justine Luke for Succession.
So I have everyone except Justine, and I have Anne-Marie Duff, but I want to drop her. Again, I can't decide what to do in the 8th spot, because I'm like, do I do 4 White Lotus people, which I had for a while after Sarah Snook went lead, because I had Sabrina and Pacciatore. So I could go back to her. But then I don't know. I don't know if, I guess it would also be kind of not disappointing, but it's not really what you want from the restricted ballot for one show to get half the slots. And I still have Succession getting half the slots in supporting actor too. But I think that's different than here, because here the only reason I had the 4th White Lotus person was because Sarah left the category. So it's just like, do I do that, like go back to her or do someone else?
I think the restricted ballot means a little less for these kind of categories, only because I think they love these shows, and when they have these big ensembles, they're just going to love the show, and they're not going to be like, I got to find room for a rando from another show. So I think going for White Lotus here makes a lot of sense. That's why I went with Justine for Succession, because I'm just like, I think you're just going to like look for Succession people to vote for here. And I think you'll be, even though a lot of her stuff, like we've said, is in the early part of the season, which feels like 3 million years ago, she is so fun. And she has like one of the best moments of the season, I think, with like her and Marcia. So I just feel like she could get in on that, but I don't think you're wrong to predict Sabrina. The problem is, for me as a White Lotus fan, I'm trying to like think about how would you vote for these people. Like Sabrina seemingly is like a popular pick, but my preference would have been certainly Haley Lou Richardson, or also like Beatrice Grano, or Sabrina Tabasco, right? What's her name? I'm sorry. Simona Tabasco, excuse me.
Yeah.
So like, I feel like all 3 of them were better than Sabrina and Peccatori, but how do you pick one then? So that's why I went like Justine, because
I feel like Sabrina has just kind of emerged as like a little ahead as the fan favorite there, where it's kind of like you can feel that, Megan Fahey has passed Aubrey Plaza, who was like the preseason
right.
fave after Jennifer Coolidge, So that's why I had Sabrina. But I don't know if like Bad Sisters can support 2 acting nominations. But I had put her there because it was a different show. And yeah, I mean, Carol Burnett is an 8th, right? I don't really think that's happening.
Carol Burnett is in there certainly as like a legendary name check moment.
Yeah, I mean, I guess she does have a little bit momentum because of her birthday special this year too. But, like Better Call Saul has had enough trouble just getting in Ray Seahorn. And I think, Carol is just here basically on a technicality because of the rules, because she was in more than half the season. And it's like, I think if you watch those episodes, you would still think of her as a guest star. I don't know if people think this way when they vote, but there's Leslie Manville for The Crown.
I don't think so personally, but
how about A Handmaid's Lady?
I mean,
You already went back to Lizzie.
you could go to Yvonne Strahovski, I think would be a good bet, but I'm not sure if I would predict it.
I think I would actually do Ann Dowd before Yvonne, just because Yvonne has missed before for some of her best material,
Mm-hmm.
and Anne has won before, or even like Samira Wiley, but who did not have a lot of material this season. I don't know. So I might just put Sabrina back in and I have 4. I feel like there's going to be a surprise here.
Well, that's why I'm going with Justine.
Justine, is Justine so high because of you? Are other people predicting her?
I don't think so. She's 97-1. I have her 100-1. So I can't.
But she's like, I think she's in like 10th place overall though, because it's just because everyone else is at 100-1.
Yeah.
I think I'm just gonna put Sabrina back in.
Okay. That might move her ahead of Justine.
So many foursomes here.
Next up, drama actor, supporting actor. I had to make a change here, Joyce, because I had all season Elijah Wood. I loved on Yellow Jackets.
And you sacrificed him, just like Bobby Cannavale.
Right into the wood chipper. Right into the wood chipper. He went. Here's what I got. The top 4 is all Succession: Matthew McFadden, Alexander Skarsgård, Alan Ruck, and Nicholas Braun. Then I paired these as by show.
Oh, that's what I've had this entire time.
I have two White Lotus. I put Tom Hollander in, and my surprise is Will Sharp. And then I have Giancarlo Esposito and Jonathan Banks. That means I left off F. Murray Abraham, who's 3rd in the odds, and Michael Imperioli. But I'll let you do your picks, and then I'll explain why I got Will Sharp in there.
No, because I was thinking about putting him in instead of Michael Imperioli, because the only change I've made here this entire time was last week when I put in Tom Hollander when I dropped F. Murray Abraham, because I have my 4 Succession, my double Better Call Saul, and then I have Michael Imperioli and F. Murray Abraham. But now I'm thinking of 2 things. I'm thinking of dropping Michael for Will, and I'm also thinking of just going down to 1 White Lotus person.
Wow.
And making that Will. And then just doing like John Lithgow or someone, like a random person.
So the reason I went with Will is because I was just thinking again of the show. And I guess if you're a fan of the show, I'm not convinced the most compelling characters were F. Murray Abraham and Michael Imperioli.
No.
And I don't think, even if you liked the show and thought that was fine, that was like your third favorite story, like coupling basically, or like grouping. And so like, I don't believe that they should be as high in the odds as they are. Will is a non-name, certainly, before this season, I would argue, right? Like, he's a director and like an actor, obviously, but he's got material with like all the best actresses, right? Like, I mean, outside of Jennifer, he's in there with Megan and Aubrey, and they're both expected to get in. So I feel like that will help him. And I think he's more compelling as a character than Theo James, because he's more, I don't know if likable is the right word, but he's more accessible, certainly, than like the Theo James character.
I think, well, I wouldn't say, that's not the right word. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but I feel like Theo just that character is like what you might expect him to play, like sort of typecasting.
Yes.
And it's like he's great, but it's like the way the character is built. It's like through no fault of his own.
Right.
Where I think there's more surprises with Will.
And it's a discovery, which I think we sometimes like.
Yeah. But that's also why I'm like, what if I just have him as the White Lotus person? Like, he'll be the J. Smith Cameron of this.
I get
and
it.
I have another solo nominee somewhere else.
So I guess the argument for like Lithgow is like, if you have Bridges in, which you do, like, he's a no-brainer, and like he was really good on The Old Man, and like it makes sense, and he's high in the odds. He's higher in the odds than Jonathan Banks, so like not bad.
Jonathan Banks, SAG nominee.
I went with Hollander, and I'm going to stick with Hollander because I'm like, again, thinking of the show, he's got all his moments with Jennifer, who was steamrolling to a win. And so, like, I think if you're paying attention to her, he's so good, and it's such a delicious character. I really think he's like such a great kind of villainy type role that I would just put him in over Lithgow doing like typical like half-baked Homeland stuff, basically, right? Like I'm just like not as into that show, and I don't know, even on a restricted ballot, if people are going to be like, well, I gotta find
Well, it
room for
doesn't
John
have to be
Lithgow.
him. I just said him. Like,
Right.
I mean, Matt Smith is pretty high here.
Certainly people expect him to, but I would say I would argue like all of these are the same. Like, are you really going to need to find room for Matt Smith? I don't know.
No,
I think
I mean, like I've never had him at all, but
you mentioned
there's
someone earlier who I think would be like Stellan Skarsgård.
yeah, you could
He
have
might
father
be
and
good.
son,
Right. I mean, that might be like more realistic.
and then they could also just like go back to Bradley Whitford.
Right.
So, because I don't know, like realistically, who else here would do it.
I mean, you could just go chalk. I mean, F. Murray Abraham is third in the odds. I'm just like, nope, not doing
But I
that.
think that's also kind of like Harrison Ford, like he is F. Murray Abraham.
Yes.
And then he got the Globe nomination. But yeah, that storyline, I don't really know anyone who is a stan of that storyline.
No.
I would say like the thing in Imperioli's favor is like I can see voters just voting for that type of performance.
I think he's worth. I think he would rank higher for me than F. Murray Abraham.
Yeah, that's why I dropped or I kept him instead
Right.
of F. Murray Abraham
But I
last
think
week.
Will is like got the breakout factor, got like all the material with the other people. And I was thinking again, like how the first season performed obviously in different categories, but like, is Will more like Natasha Rothwell or like, yeah, or like Sydney Sweeney even, right? Like where it's like not an expected nomination that you're just like, oh, well, of course, because like that was just a really compelling part of the show that people liked. And if they like the show, they're just going to check off these names.
Yeah, I mean I would have him obviously if it were the unlimited ballot. I mean if Succession were in here, I think he would be safer.
Sure.
So I'll just maybe I'll keep Tom too. Where is he? I can't even find Will. How low is he?
He was very low.
He's still at 101.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Great category. Quadruple Succession, double Better Call Saul, double White Lotus. I'm not confident Better Call Saul either, but again, I have to go down with the ship.
Yeah.
So.
Makes sense.
And Jonathan Banks got the SAG nomination.
Right. Next up is drama guest actress choice. This one, I think a lot of places you can go to, a lot of different Succession people or Last of Us stars. Here's what I ended up with, which is maybe wrong. I have Harriet Walter for Succession, Jaime Abbas for Succession, Melanie Linsky for Last of Us, Claire Foy for The Crown, Cherry Jones for Succession, and Storm Reed for The Last of Us.
I have Harriet, Cherry, Anna Torv for Last of Us, Ham, Fiona Shaw for Andor, and Claire.
So you went with Fiona and Anna Torv, which are the fourth and fifth in the odds. I zigged.
I mean, Last of Us could like get like 3 or 4 people in here, but I just have one.
So I went with Storm Reed. And again, this could be completely wrong, but my rationale was just like, if you watch the show, her episode, while not as like much of a viral hit as the third episode with Murray Bartlett and Nick Offerman, was definitely one of like the stronger episodes to me. And I think her relationship with Bella Ramsey's character is great. And like, it's an emotional episode. So I feel like she would get in, but I don't know. I didn't go with Anna Torv because I was just like, I don't feel like that's fine, great stuff, but like there's not as much of something to like really kind of connect to as much, even though she also dies and sacrifices herself and blah blah blah. Everyone in the show dies though, so it's like kind of like not as emotional, I guess. I don't know.
I think I don't know. I felt like there was more it's like I guess support, I guess, for like Anna or just like consensus around her performance. But like I mean I agree there's a lot of fans like for Storm's episode. But I also feel like that's kind of like the product of the writing too.
Mm-hmm.
So which they don't have to differentiate, I guess. But yeah, I can see the show just taking over this category like hacks too. But I went under and I just did one because I feel like they could all just kind of cannibalize each other too.
True. I thought Melanie would be good too because it's like against type for her and like very memorable villain performance.
Yeah. So.
And then we both have Claire, who's not very high in the odds, but feels like just an obvious name check. Like, hell, you know, we already love this. We let her win once for this.
Yeah, they love her as Claire, or Queen Elizabeth,
Yep.
and I think they can be lazy here because the last time we had the restricted ballot in 2016, they nominated Margot Martindale for like 2 minutes of screen time for sipping coffee on the Americans, and she won.
That's why I have Sherry Jones in there because I was just
So,
like, she's not. Again, didn't really come back. It was great in the one episode, but really not a factor in the season of Succession. But obviously, he's won before for this performance, so they might just like throw her in there. Obviously,
you know what would be a cool Last of Us nominee? Ashley Johnson.
would be really cool. Way back when I thought of predicting her because I thought, but I'm like, I don't know if people really know the. I mean, maybe they do because the show was so popular and the game is such a huge hit. But I was like, it's like good trick casting basically, and then she's also really good. That's such a great flashback sequence.
So The Handmaid's Tale has never missed this category.
Right.
Anna
Grace
is here.
Getting in. She could. She's very popular.
Former nominee.
People like her. I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced of Fiona Shaw. I don't have her in. I don't believe, and I'm just not convinced that she would get in. So
I'm not convinced of her either, but I think if Andor were to get acting nominations, it would come in the guest categories.
Right. Well, we'll do the next one. I do have a guest actor here. For guest actor, I've got James Cromwell for Succession, Nick Offerman and Murray Bartlett for Last of Us, Irene Moyed for Succession, Andy Serkis for Andor, and then Justin Kirk for Succession.
I don't have Justin. I have everyone else. I have Bryan Cranston still for Better Call Saul.
Would be an easy just drop. But I think, again, I'm expecting Succession to actually break its own record for acting nominees. And to do so, it needs Justin Kirk and Justine Liu, basically. So,
well, it could just get one more between them.
Sure.
And they'll get 15.
I'm just going in. I'm going for 16.
Yeah, I can't decide if I want to put Justin in too.
So the argument against it would be he should have been nominated for season 3. And it was a shame he wasn't. Because Jared is not as much of a compelling force, I don't believe, in this.
There's no bathroom scene.
There's no bathroom scene. And like he kind of seems like the thing I liked about him in season 3 is that it was such a slimy, like hard to read performance where you're like, is this guy an absolute genius who's like manipulating like stupid people, or is he a total idiot? Right. Like that kind of thing. And I think in this season, it tips a little more towards he's an idiot, just a little bit. Like, especially his like concession speech, which was just like completely deranged, but not in like
concession speech. Just his victory speech.
I mean, his victory speech. I'm so sorry. His victory.
Are you thinking of the Conheads?
No, I'm not. Conhead's speech was great. Justin's speech I didn't think was super great, and I know he like filmed that. He did a lot of interviews afterwards. Like I think he had COVID, so they had to film that like separately. It just felt like a little not as on point as some of the stuff in the 3rd season. But at the same time, I'm hoping that because they love Succession and like he does have a couple of cool scenes and he was great in season 3, that he would just get carried into a nomination this year. So
yeah, I'm not gonna hold his snub last year against him. And they, he is like I agree. I think like the character itself is such a key point in the season, but you don't see a lot of him, which I guess doesn't really matter because it's guest. But we know like a lot of his material was left on the editing room floor.
Yes.
Too. And I feel like maybe I agree. Like I think maybe there should have been more with him in America Decides. I don't know, or even in Church and State after. I mean, there is that great scene at the funeral reception with him and A-Scars.
I think like you said, a lot of his stuff was clearly cut out. I think he needed to be in like the 4th episode, and they should have found room for him to have like one more
Funny because I
episode.
never expected him to come in the 4th, even though they talked about him coming in. But I never. It's like one of those things where you just talk about someone, but you don't see them ever.
I feel like he should have like maybe come in there, and because they talked.
I feel like they should have set up him asking Connor to drop out earlier than in Tailgate Party.
Yes, which maybe they would have in 4, right? You know what I mean? Like I just think like a lot of his stuff was moved around, so I don't know, but I'm hoping he gets in because he rules.
I know. I want to put him in there. Then I would have to drop Brian.
I'd drop Brian just because, again, this makes no sense then if you're watching this, because you're just like, what an idiot. He just said like Claire would get in. I'm like, I don't think they care as much. I don't know. I mean, it would make sense for him to get in because like they're very lazy, and we just said like Cherry Jones is going to get in, and obviously like Claire could get in, so like why not Brian? But I just want to find room for the people I want to find room for, and so that's why I picked Justin Kirk over Brian. That's what you get here.
Yeah, it's hard to go against Brian given his history, and even though like I would nominate Tony Dalton first for Better Call Saul here, but I feel like they're not paying attention. So Brian is like their best, or the show's best chance of getting into this category. I don't think they'll do Michael McKean again. I guess I could also just drop Andy Serkis, but I don't know.
Feels like he'll get in. People seem to really like him.
Yeah.
That's like a standout episode.
I know. I mean, I guess I could also replace Arian with Justin.
Or what about John Grease?
I had him in there way early on, but I just got rid of him. Mm-hmm. I had him in there basically before Succession started airing.
I mean, Arian, like you've always said, like I don't think he should get in based on the season just because Stewie didn't have a lot to do, but they also love Stewie, and like why wouldn't they? So it feels like he'll get in, but I think you can make the case to drop him as well.
And then I would just have James and Justin.
Right. But I think they'll go with Stewie. Team Ken, baby.
He's always been Team Ken except in season 1. So
he needed when Ken.
Then he came around for the Hustle takeover. I don't know. Should I drop Ryan for Justin?
I mean, that's what I did, but you don't have to do that. I think that's stupid. That's my own pick, not you deciding it.
I know. I don't know if I want to do it. And then I have Succession getting 14 acting nominations at the moment. So You have 16. Yeah. Or do you think like, I don't know. I don't think this applies to Succession because I think they are watching it live. So I don't think they're like catching up on last season. Although I guess some people are, but I think majority of voters have seen each season individually. But like, could they be voting for both seasons? Or like, are they mad that he was snubbed last season?
That would be my thinking, maybe.
I'm gonna leave him out.
Okay. All right. Our final stretch here, Joyce. We're just going.
These are gonna be a mess, limited.
So series. I have Beef, Blackbird, Monster, Daisy Jones in the 6, and then I put a Small Light in my last spot.
So
I had Obi-Wan. That was what I dropped.
My beloved Obi-Wan. I have Beef, Monster, Daisy Jones, Fleischman is in Trouble, and A Small Light.
So I'm out on Fleischman. It's 4th in the odds. I'm just not sure that people will remember it, but if anybody is going to, probably the TV Academy would be a fan because it's like in their maybe the voters' wheelhouse.
I think it is. I think it has more appeal than like you might think, not you, but like people might think. And I think it's very relatable. And it's like one of the few shows here that is not murder. Or it's like, it's more grounded, right? Like than a lot of these, like it's not, Daisy Jones is not about murder, but that's fantastical. And it's basically like a, Fleetwood Mac fanfic. But I think I'll just keep it and go down the ship because I've had it this entire time. So that's my old show that's not Monster.
Love to see
And
it.
then I put in a small light just because it should be helped by the restricted ballot. But I can also see it not making it because it came so late.
That's my only real.
Yeah, it should have been earlier.
Yeah.
Like I think you know last year it was unlimited, but I could see it like being station 11. It gets all these other categories, but it misses series.
Mm-hmm.
So
I kept it into because I do think people who have watched it really like it. That's another thing. So
yeah. So and Nat Geo is campaigning it.
Hmm.
They love to campaign. They're big campaigners. It's not as like mainstream or like broad appealing as Genius, but I think if you watch it, it's very hard to dislike it or
Yep.
even be bored by it.
Yep.
So even though it's historical, and then I don't know, like I dropped Blackbird a while ago, so
I'm keeping Blackbird in. I think it's gonna get in. I just
then
have it getting too many other nominations to jump ship.
we could get those and then miss. So
maybe.
I don't know what else here. George and Tammy is pretty high, but I don't really see it.
George and Tammy was a popular pick. Love and Death, also popular, but I didn't think either of those would get in. I think those
Love
are
and Death is going to be my one that's going to get like a lot of stuff and then miss series.
yes.
There's The Patient, which is short, but I don't know.
Not something I think people liked.
Mrs. Davis, my beloved Mrs. Davis, but I don't think so.
No. For TV movie Joyce, this one we could plow through probably pretty quick. I've got the top 5 in the odds. Weird Al, or Weird, the Al Yankovic Story, Fire Island, Prey, Dolly Parton's Mountain Magic Christmas, and my beloved Reality.
I have Weird, Prey, Hocus Pocus 2.
Nice.
Dolly, and Reality.
Nice.
So,
sure.
No
Fire Island for you.
No Fire Island for me. I'm just gonna, I've had it out this whole time. I might as well just keep it out.
Perfectly fine.
I'll take the hit for it if it gets in. So.
All right. Drama, limited series, movie, actress. This one I've had to make some changes, including dropping my beloved Sydney Sweeney. But I kept the god Betty Gilpin because I can't bring myself to drop her. So here's what I ended up with. Elizabeth Olsen for Love and Death, Rachel Weisz for Dead Ringers, Ali Wong for Beef, Jessica Chastain for George and Tammy, Emily Blunt for The English, and Betty Gilpin for Mrs. Davis.
I have Ali, Elizabeth, Jessica, Dominique, Rachel, and Belle Powley for Small Light. So I dropped Emily Blunt, but I can be convinced to put her back and drop Rachel Weisz. I also really want to put Betty in, but I don't know if I can do it.
I don't think Betty's gonna get in. And I think
I was very happy that she got the TSA nomination because I voted for her, so it was my vote, obviously.
Thank you for your service.
Yes, but I don't really think she's gonna make it in here. So
if I decide to drop Betty, but I'd like to go down on the ship Matthew Good style, I would put in Dominique Fishback for Swarm because I think that's like a buzzy, like kind of a performance that I think people would really like. The people who like it will love it and can get her in. And so
yeah, Dominique I've had in since the show premiered in March, and she always felt like she is stronger than the show itself. Like you might be out on the show, it's very polarizing. I feel like a lot of older voters might just be turned off of it completely. But yeah, the people who've seen it really love her, and I think she can get in without the show getting in anywhere else. And a lot of people like Melanie Linsky and Damon Lindelof have praised her, written essays about her performance. So I think that helps. And she and Rachel Weisz are kind of the same to me, except I feel like Rachel does not have that same kind of visible support that we've seen. Like no one is really posting about her performance in the same way. I mean, they could love it and not be posting about it. We'll never know until next week, I guess. Right. So that's why I'm also thinking about dropping her and putting Emily back in. So I dropped Emily
I'd put Emily in, and I would put her in over Belle, I guess I would argue, because I think that she's been more visible. That's the only thing.
Yeah, she's been campaigning a lot.
And I think they've not abandoned the English clearly. And while the show maybe is not as like top of mind as some of these other things, I think it's had enough runway where people have seen it or checked it out and like, sure. So I don't know. I wouldn't drop Rachel. I think she'll have her passionate supporters as well, even if they're not as loud.
Yeah, the thing with Rachel is just like I think she has the more difficult show, in quotes, so to speak. I think it's a harder watch for people. I think Swarm is a difficult watch in a different way.
Right.
But Dead Ringers, I could just see people like just noping out of there immediately, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, I think like Emily got the SAG nomination. I think that's also why a lot of people are high on her. But it's a different field here at the Emmys, because the only person from that field who's competing at the Emmys is Jessica.
Right.
So, because a lot of these people are the spring contenders. I put Belle in just kind of like the same logic with the restricted ballot, and like she is the show.
Right.
So if you watch the show and you like it, you have to love her.
Right. Makes sense.
Right.
It does
And
make sense.
so I think she can get in if enough people have seen it. And she's been campaigning too. And yeah, I don't know. I also don't know how many Amazon ladies are going to get in. So because I dropped Emily, I now have 2 with Dominique and Rachel. Like, is it going to pull 3? You could also put Riley Keough in there. So
I have it pulling 1, 2 at the moment, and maybe 3 if I put Dominique in. I think it could. I really think they could. It's just the categories. I mean, Riley is very high in the odds. She's 5th. She could easily get in. I think if you like Daisy Jones, you obviously like her. So
yeah, I don't think there's the same level of passion for her performance as there is for Dominique's.
Right. That's exactly.
So that's why I Dominique over. There's also Lizzie Kaplan.
Yeah, and Sydney Sweeney, who I love. It's a great category. There's like a lot of options.
Sydney, I think, is too late, and also it's a movie.
Yep.
Lizzie, I kind of wish she was in supporting just so I could fill it out easier.
Lizzie, I would have very high in my own personal ballots. I would have her first. She's great in that, and I think she is maybe more supporting than lead.
She's not visible on screen. You hear her a lot, and yeah. But I don't really think. I mean, this category could go a lot of different ways.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I think it'll be some permutation of what are those, like 8 people, top 8?
Yeah,
I don't know.
For actor, 3 left here, Joyce. I have Stephen Yeun for Beef, Evan Peters for Monster, Taron Egerton for Blackbird, Daniel Radcliffe for Weird, Michael Shannon for George and Tammy, and Chatsky Spencer for The English.
Wow, you're gonna do double English?
I am, because I think if you like the show, and like we said, like it's a 2-hander.
It is.
Really ignored.
Everyone's just predicting Emily.
But I'm like, if you're gonna predict Emily, which I decided to do, I was like, I gotta predict him. He's great, and like, I think it's like a kind of, again, the other people you could predict here are like Steve Carell for The Patient, Woody Harrelson, Jesse Eisenberg. I'm like, I don't think there's a lot of people like putting them high up. I think Cheska could have like a lot of like some small passionate support, maybe. Guess we'll see.
I have Steven, Evan, Taron, Steve. I do have Jesse Eisenberg. And I'm gonna keep Ben Whishaw, even though I feel like he's not gonna get it, but I don't know what else I'm gonna put here.
I mean, the logic works, right? People like him, so
I feel like this is gonna hurt his underseen. He's really great on it, but I don't know. You would hope that the restricted ballot would help him, but I do think it is not being watched, and it came out last summer on AMC Plus. So yeah,
you don't have,
and then
yeah,
I put Jesse in just because I have the show in series, so I was like, why not? And
Makes sense.
he is all over the first couple episodes, right?
Great.
And
No, he is good on. I love him on it.
so
But what about you? Don't have Daniel Radcliffe?
no, I've never had him, as
No,
you know.
just no movies for you here.
No movies for me. Would I be shocked if he got in? No, I thought about putting him in just because I have limited options
And no
here.
Michael Shannon for you.
No, Michael, I feel like it's another thing. It's the same thing that you were saying with Emily and Cheske. It's like everyone is just all over Jess, right? And it's like, why are you not also all over Michael? But I feel like that show is like, speaking of underseen, I think that's not, it has not been watched either. And I do think Jess kind of benefits from just like her persona and like people just liking her. And that's why she's managed to get the momentum and the SAG win.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you watch the show, there's no reason to be voting for her and not for Michael too. And he's in the more open category, really. So, but that's another show where I think like she could just be a sole nominee.
Right.
But yeah, I dropped Woody Harrelson, but I can also see him getting it just as a pure name check too, because he is good on the show, but I think there is a lot of apathy towards that show.
There is.
So I don't know. I mean, like, what else is there? There's Sam Claflin, Daisy Jones.
I had him in once. He was good.
I feel like no one talks about the guys on that show.
They don't.
So it's kind of like Yellow Jackets to me. Yeah, Ewan, Kamal Nanjiani,
That show.
Bobby Cannavale, The Watcher.
No, Bupkis, yes, not Watcher. Next up, Joyce, supporting actress. This is another one where we're gonna probably go against the odds because 4, 5, and 6 I do not have in.
You don't have Olivia Colman for Great Expectations?
No, I have Niecy Nash-Betts, Claire Danes, Maria Bello, Lily Rabe, Michael Learned, Ashley Park, and Camila Morone.
I had that lineup at one point, but
I know.
I have Claire, Niecy, Michael, Maria, Ashley. I dropped Camila and I put in Patty Yusutake for beef. I have triple beef here. And I have Lily. I don't, this category again could also go a number of ways after Niecy and Claire.
I actually thought of triple beef or adding Patty and dropping Ashley, but I didn't want to do that. So I don't think it's like far off.
I don't, what else do I do here? I don't know.
That's why I put Camila Morone in.
Yeah, I had her in there for like 3 days, I think. And then, yeah, this is tough. I'm prepared to get this very wrong.
Well, according to the odds, we will, because like we said, Olivia Colman, Lena Headey, and Cherry Jones are 4, 5, and 6.
Sure.
I don't really know what else to say. I don't even want to talk. Like, I'm just like, sure. I just can't wait to see what this ends up being because, like,
nothing really makes sense here. That's the problem.
No,
you know, and I basically have triple beef because the show is strong.
That's what we're thinking, right? That would make sense.
Yeah, because
that's why I have Camilla, like, because I'm like, oh, I think Daisy Jones is pretty strong.
I have Daisy in series and I don't have it getting an acting nomination. So we'll see. But
that's my shrinking.
Yeah, there's like Olivia, Lena, and Cherry. I don't think are gonna happen.
No,
Lena deserves if they make it to episode 4, but I don't know if they did. And then after that, there's Judy Greer for White House Plumbers.
How about Jennifer Coolidge
for The Watcher? I mean,
it could happen.
Sure. I would not be shocked if they went there.
Same.
Camilla, Anna Paquin for A Friend of the Family.
I can't go in there for Peacock. I'm sorry.
She's not even 100-1. She's 78-1. Evan Rachel Wood for Weird. Great performance. You had Jennifer Ely at one point.
I did. I dropped her here finally because I was just like, I don't think Dead Ringers is going to support 2 acting nominations. So I think she's got to be left out.
Harry Coon for Boston Strangler. Penelope Ann Miller for Monster. I don't know. It's just I'm just scrolling here and Billie Eilish for Swarm.
Sure.
Yeah, I would not be surprised at anyone beyond Claire and Niecy. That's all.
For supporting actor Joyce, this is another one where I was like, I don't know. I have Paul Walter Hauser for Blackbird, Richard Jenkins for Monster, Jesse Plemons for Love and Death, which I'm not very confident in, honestly. Ray Liotta for Blackbird, Young Mazzino for Beef, Joseph Lee for Beef, and Rodney Burford for Monster. I don't know. I kind of wanted to drop Joseph Lee, honestly, but I think Beef is the strongest show. So
I probably won't change anything here either, but this is gonna be very wrong too. I have PWH, Richard, Young, Joe, Tom, Jesse, and Rodney.
So you don't have Ray Liotta and you have
No.
Tom Pelphrey.
Yeah.
Sure. Like I said, all this is wrong. I'm not convinced Joseph Lee would get in, and I almost wanted to put Liev Schreiber in for Joseph Lee.
I want to put him in too, but I'm like, should I just drop Jesse Plemons? I don't know.
I almost might, but then I'd have no Love and Death, but I also don't have it getting in for series, which is fine.
Yeah, I don't have it getting in series, but I have it getting 4.
I'm doing it right now. I'm making a change. I'm dropping Jesse and I'm putting Liev in for a spotlight.
Am I gonna do 3 above the line nominations for a small light?
You might. I might do Bel Pally next if I drop.
I mean, I could also put in Domhnall Gleeson. I don't have him in here. He's 3rd.
I'm off the patient. I will be surprised if it comes.
I just have Steve in for the patient.
Another category, like you said,
I'm torn between Jesse and Tom Pelphrey because Tom gives a superior performance of the two, but you have to get there.
Right.
Whereas Jesse is he's more prominent in the first couple episodes.
Like everyone knows Jesse's in it.
Yeah.
I'm dropping him. I dropped him. Sorry, you're gone. I got Liev in.
I don't want to drop. I'm basically hope dicking Tom. Really,
that's fine.
And also, am I also hope dicking him when anything can happen here after Paul Walter Hauser?
No.
Okay, I'm gonna put Liev. I'm gonna drop Jesse.
One of us. So that's it then.
This is gonna be wrong.
The limited we end up on the chaos note, but it's these are crazy categories.
I mean, Murray Bartlett is, what is this? Is he 8th? What's that ranking?
1, 2, 3, 4,
5, 6. 7. He's 7th, so he's getting in according to odds.
Yes.
For Welcome to Chippendales.
Yes, that memorable show that everyone watched and enjoyed.
There's Bowen Yang for Fired Island.
No, but Greg he's Kinnear. Up there.
Greg Kinnear for Blackbird.
I almost had Greg Kinnear in, but
Justin Theroux going supporting for a lead performance.
Joyce, so that's it. Those are our final Emmy picks. We've gone on for so long. I think we actually should not do emails unless you really want to. We could.
We could do one. I don't know. Pick the best one, I guess.
All right, let me
pick
one or two. You could email us at slugfest@goldderby.com.
These are our last emails before nominations.
And then make sure to email us after. And maybe I'll do 2. Well, let's just do 1. This one's from Sarah. Hi, Joyce and Chris. Thank you for answering my email if this gets to you. This is part of the reason why I'm reading it, because she was so polite.
Oh.
Part A. Is it wise to lose faith in The Crown and in The Handmaid's Tale for having a huge presence in the acting categories on Emmy nomination day? We've kind of discussed that here. Probably not the safest bet to sleep on The Handmaid's Tale, maybe? It could still get in. He says after he predicted Elizabeth.
I mean, yeah, you put Lizzie back in. So no, I think it could get in somewhere acting wise. It's always had great support from the acting branch. So it's never missed supporting actress or guest actress. So it has those two going for it. So, and we were struggling to fill out supporting actress, really. The last spot. You have Justine. I guess you're not struggling because you already picked her, but I was struggling. Yeah, I think people are just down on it because it did bomb over the winter.
Right.
So it feels like it is, yeah, like the other thing going against it is like it's an older show, so it feels like they've been weaning themselves off of it over time. It made a comeback for season 4, but that was also COVID.
Right.
So there were options. But no, I think it could get in somewhere. The Crown, I feel like it always does better in its even numbered seasons.
I feel like this season will get in the places where we're expecting it to get in, not overperform at all, and then the final season will be a lot bigger, based on what's left and based on like hopefully the content as well, the quality of the content.
Yeah, and I think Imelda is lucky that lead is very open.
Yes.
And so that she's basically locked in 4th place right now. I mean, we've discussed this before, like if Elizabeth Debicki had stayed in lead, like would both of them be getting into lead?
I kind of think yes, based on like what we've said. It's hard to fill out lead.
Yeah. Or what if Elizabeth gets in over Imelda in lead? Because she got into SAG, their one category over Imelda. So but yeah, I think I'll get those two. I don't know about like, Jonathan Pryce. I think he's also pretty high. Or Dominic West or Leslie Manville.
Right.
I mean, we have Claire Foy, yes. So.
Obviously. Next part of Sarah's email, part B. Considering how my lock predictions aren't filling up in a lot of these categories, I'd like your thoughts on the fringe contenders I have a lot of faith in. Bad Sisters, which I have predicted for drama, lead actress for Sharon Horgan, and supporting actress for Anne-Marie Duff. Joyce, is this your burner account, I guess?
Yeah, but I just went off of Anne-Marie Duff.
So, number 2, Jury Duty and What We Do in the Shadows for comedy series. So, we talked a little about this. I think Jury Duty could really get in for comedy series. I'm not going to predict it, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I think that would just tell us like how not dispassionate, but how like weaker or more like evenly split the other fringe contenders are, like Wednesday and Shadows if it doesn't get in, and Shrinking, like assuming, I don't know, like Poker Face gets in too, because there is, I mean, you do see there's a lot of passion for Jury Duty. I also think what might help it too is like it's also a show you can watch with your family. Like if you're looking for stuff to watch with your kids, like it appeals to all demos. But yeah, again, I don't know if I can go there to do it. So
let's do one more email. Email us at slugfest@goldderby.com. This one I think you'll like, Joyce, too. Hi, Joyce and Chris. My name is Sean, and I just want to say I'm a huge fan of your weekly videos and about award show predictions. I look forward to checking them out every Thursday. You guys are the best. Thanks for the commercial there, Sean. I love it. My question is about Better Call Saul and its chances of an Emmy win. Could Better Call Saul win in any of these acting categories, and which one does it have the best chance of winning? Best actor for Bob, best supporting actress for Ray, or best drama guest actor for Bryan Cranston? I personally think we're all underestimating Ray's chances of winning. As iconic and deserving as Jennifer Coolidge is in The White Lotus, they already gave it to her last year. And Ray has been delivering on Better Call Saul for 6 seasons. And since she finally cracked into Emmy nominations last year after a handful of egregious snubs, I think she has a real shot at snagging that win. Joyce, what do you think?
I want it to happen. I don't trust them to make it happen is really the issue.
I feel like that category people have been not a little checked out on, only because it just is like we know like kind of like the top people are getting in. And like we said, it's maybe like 7 locks and then an 8th spot that you could fudge around with. And I'll be curious to see once the nominations come out, if that conversation starts to get louder for Ray winning, because it was pretty loud last year when the season was airing, and then we were in this Emmy.
I mean, cycle. it was loud for Bob specifically, and a lot of people changed to Bob last year.
Right.
So I think, hopefully the actors have caught up on the show now that it's over, because I feel like they've always just been behind on the show.
Yes. Like
the writers are only people who are up to speed on it. And I think that's partially why she also got in last year, finally, because they caught up. Because the show is just quieter and slower than Breaking Bad. And I think that might just be something why people were not, it's not like a priority view for them for some reason, like it's not the same show. Maybe they were expecting the same show. So so it's good that she made it in last year on an unlimited ballot finally. So it should help her to get back in again on a restricted ballot. And yeah, with the show being over, maybe people will be more compelled to be like, I have an endpoint here. I could finish these episodes and there will be no more after this. And then she has a great tape, Waterworks, too, in the back half. I don't know if she can beat Jennifer, though.
It's going to be tough, but I do think that'll be more of a conversation after the nominations.
Yeah, I think, I don't know if it's like, I guess you could try to argue that, oh, people think Jennifer is such a sure thing that they'll vote for someone else, maybe. But then you just have to assume everyone is going to divert their votes to Ray. And I don't know if they would.
Right. Like we said, I think Jennifer in season 2 is better than she was in season 1.
Yes.
She steamrolled in season 1 to such an extent that I don't think she in theory should then even more steamroll into season 2 because she's a better performance. I could have made an easier case for her losing last year than this year.
She was never losing last year. I don't think she's gonna lose this year. I think even though this year I feel like she has more like internal competition, so to speak, because I feel like there's more passion for like Megan,
yes,
than there was for even like Alexandra last year. So yeah, it'll be tough for I mean that would be one of the bigger upsets if Jennifer Coolidge does not win
crazy
that category. So but yeah, I mean I have Ray in second since Sarah left. So I don't know. But I think like its best chance of getting an acting win is obviously Brian in guest. I don't think Bob is happening.
No. Joyce, that's it. So we got to wrap up. This has been going on for quite some time. But we'll be back next week with one of these right after the nominations, emergency episode. And we'll
and all of our predictions will be wrong.
And we'll update our predictions.
Especially in limited.
Yes. We'll update those predictions probably soon. So this is final as you're watching.
Final. I don't know if I would do that many. I think I would just kind of do maybe like 2. I don't know.
Not a lot.
I don't go crazy with my last minute changes.
No. All right. Well, this was a lot of fun, Joyce. I'll talk to you next week then. Bye.